The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 5. Into Battle. Chapter 2. Tal settled back into the sarcophagus, the stone cold against his back. Waves of shivering rocked his whole body every few seconds. He kept seeing the beam of light from his sunstone strike the ceiling. He saw the stone lintel above the door crack and come tumbling down. He saw the steam howling out from the cracked wall. Most of all, Tal remembered Crow's sudden look of terror as the avalanche of stone, steam, and dust came down upon him. Crow's face haunted him, but he had not been alone. Tal had almost certainly killed Cloville and maybe others of Crow's underfolk gang, and most horribly of all, his own great-uncle Ebbet. They had all been directly in the path of the falling rocks and the scalding jets of steam. There was no way they could have escaped the collapse of the ceiling and the rupturing of one of the castle's major steam risers. It had only happened an hour before, but it was one of the longest hours Tal had ever experienced. He tried to stop the falling rocks and the steam, but had been driven back. He called for help, but no one came. All the chosen were away. Their bodies might be sleeping in their chambers, but their spirits, their essential selves, were in the spirit world of Einir, so there was no one powerful enough to do anything. The underfolk would arrive eventually, but they could do no more than clean up, shut off the steam somewhere down below, and dig the bodies out of the rubble. A thin, squeaky voice interrupted Tal's awful memories. He craned his neck forward to look at the red keystone he held in his hand, flat on his chest. It glowed in the darkness of the sarcophagus. Tal concentrated on it, and the image of Lokar, the guardian of the red keystone who was trapped inside the sunstone, slowly came into focus. She was talking to him, he realized. He should concentrate on what she was saying. "Tal! Listen! You must listen! We must get as close to the chosen enclave as we can," repeated Lokar. "Do you know how to focus on your arrival point in Einir, Tal?" "No," mumbled Tal. He knew he should be concentrating on what she was saying, but he couldn't. His head was full of the disaster he had caused. Lokar kept talking at him, telling him how to focus on his sunstone so that his spirit would cross to the right place in Einir. Einir was a source of sunstones and spirit shadows. It was also, Tal thought bitterly, the source of all his troubles. He had unwittingly gotten caught up in an age-old struggle between the people of the Dark World, the Chosen and the Icecarls, and the strange creatures of the spirit world of Einir. His enemy Sushin was undeniably an agent of the shadows of Einir, and had trapped Tal's father inside the Orange Keystone, poisoned his mother into a coma, imprisoned his younger brother Gref, and put his very small sister Kusi into the care of his awful cousins Lalik and Korik. So close, yet far, very far," muttered Lokar, her voice so strange Tal wasn't sure who she was talking to. Then her voice snapped back to its normal strident tone. "Tal!" Lokar ordered. "There's no time to waste. We must get to the Empress and report on the unlocked keystones." Tal nodded weakly, but he didn't do anything. Something squirmed at the edge of his vision, and he flinched, until he realized it was his spirit shadow, Adris. Adris had been a storm shepherd in Einir, a mighty creature of cloud and air. Normally he would be a very strong spirit shadow in the Dark World, but he had been starved of light and almost destroyed when Tal had incorrectly created a miniature veil to hide them from hostile spirit shadows. It had worked, but Tal had never cast one before, and had accidentally worked Adris into the veil. Without any light at all, Adris had shrunk and withered away to almost nothing. Even now he was very weak.
"Adris,"
whispered Adris, close to Tal's ear. Adris was his fellow storm shepherd, a companion to the Icecarl Mila, who had left the castle and gone out onto the ice.
"We should go to Adris. She will help us."
"The Empress," repeated Lokar. "The Empress! The Empress! We must cross to Einir and inform the Empress! We must! Shut up!" Tal burst out. Why couldn't they be quiet just for a minute? He needed to lie there in silence, with just the comforting orange glow of his sunstone ring, mixed with the steady crimson pulse of light from the red keystone. Surprisingly, Adris and Lokar both shut up. Tal lay there, breathing quietly, every now and then pressing his hands against the stone lid of the sarcophagus above his head. Pressing hard against the lid released some of the tension inside him. He still couldn't get that awful frozen second of Crow's face and the falling rock out of his mind. But he finally felt strong enough to make a firm decision. They would cross to Einir, find the Empress, and tell her everything. He would make sure that she used the Violet Keystone, the strongest and most important stone, to release his father from the Orange Keystone. Then Tal could tell him everything, and he would take over and sort everything out. Tal felt a little better as he made that decision, until a small voice inside his head reminded him that no one could make Ebbet and Crow and the others alive again. "It was Crow's own fault," Tal said suddenly. Somehow, getting angry made him feel better. His head still hurt where Crow had hit him. The Underfolk boy had stolen the red keystone, too. If Crow hadn't hit him and taken the keystone, nothing would have happened. He would still be alive, and so would Ebbet, Clovel, Ferric, and Inky. "It was his fault," Tal repeated. Crow had started it. The rockfall was an accident that never would have happened otherwise.